All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us on this live podcast. And today I'm joined by Eric, who is a Tampines Rovers fan, and Dil, my recurring pundit from Matchday SG. So we're going to talk about the game that happened yesterday between Singapore and Lebanon. Now, before we go into details, a few facts that I would like to run off for our listeners. Most particularly, let's talk about the track record of Singapore. Now, Singapore has not won a game since 13th of November last year. We have gone 13 games without a win. We have a few draws, we have a few losses. And yesterday, unfortunately, was our latest loss against a team that's ranked 100 in the world. Now, Singapore has dropped to its lowest ranking this month. Currently, we are at 173, which means that we lost to a team that's ranked 72 places above us. Now, looking at the scoreline, 1-0, we actually fell to an 18th minute goal by a defender, Ali Hamam. It wasn't so bad, right? What do you guys think about the 1-0 loss? Was it a bad result? Considering that the team that beat us is ranked so much higher and has not been defeated so far in their AFC qualification campaign. Eric, let's hear your thoughts about the game against Lebanon. Do you think that we did badly? Was losing 1-0 a bad result going forward into the next game against Bahrain?
I think it's like, the first half was pretty bad, to be honest. Even though we started the game quite well, I would say like the first 10 minutes, we were like in control pretty much, but wasn't like really creating a lot of chances. I would say the first chance came when, obviously Bennett won the ball at the halfway line, I believe. He released Shawa and, Shawa laid the ball off to Shafwan, but obviously he missed the target. I think that was like our best chance in the first half. Second half was much better. I believe in giving credits when due, and the boys did so much better in the second half. So I would say like it's a game of like two different halves. The first half was pretty bad. I think there were times where Lebanon players basically they were like running around our penalty balls, with all the tricks and flicks and whatever. It's quite bad. You look at the goal. It was I would say, I actually saw the replay earlier, and I think that goal, the mistake was probably I would say is like Ishdin and Hafiz mistake. Because I think Hafiz wasn't tracking the runner when that guy released the ball to the wing back. And but prior to that, Bennett was actually kind of like out of position. So the moment the ball went past Ishdin and Bennett, that guy was basically through on goal. He basically only has like Haris left, and I think he turned Haris, and I think that was quite. I don't know. I personally feel that Haris make it quite easy for him as well. And just add on to the fact that Hafiz wasn't tracking the runner, and that was how he scored a goal. So I thought like we could have defended much more better for that one goal during the game.
Okay, Dil, let's hear your thoughts about the game. How do you feel with it? And moving forward against Bahrain, do you think 1-0 is a good result and we should take heart that we just consider one goal before we take on a team that is considerably on paper weaker than Lebanon?
Hello everyone. I have to apologize about my voice because I lost my voice cheering for the team yesterday with Brigata Lion City, so I do apologize about that. But going back to what you asked, what you first said, that Lebanon is ranked 100 and is so much ranked much better, but let's not forget that we were at 100 not so long ago. We were close to 100. We were beating teams higher than 100 not so long ago. So I don't think we should be patting ourselves on the back too much about losing to Lebanon, but then the fact remains it was a strong team, and I agree with Eric. We had a tale of two different halves. It was a bit schizophrenic. We were really good at certain spells, and then suddenly we were really bad at certain spells. So, Madhu Mohana was finding space all over the pitch, but no one could find the pass to him. And good crosses come in, headers connect, but just not big good enough. So it was, for me, I thought it was an almost there performance from them. And yes, like what Eric said, some of the key players were having an off day. Like Haris is a good example. But moving on to the Bahrain game, I think what's crucial for us right now in that group is a win. Doesn't matter how it comes, we need to win. And even if we don't qualify, because the odds are against us to qualify, even if we don't qualify, we really shouldn't go a calendar year without a victory, and we have to try and win it. And I hope Sundram is pushing this into the boys that, let's start winning again.
Bro, the calendar year already ended. Going to end soon, on Monday. Oh, okay, fair enough. Because the last victory was on the 13th November last year. Yeah, so yeah, I mean 1 year is pretty much up on on this Monday. Well, I mean, just to add on to what Dale has said, I thought, Shawa did well. He only has like 2 caps prior to the game, under his belt. He played like he has like 30 over 40 international caps. So I thought like, even though the performance wasn't that great, but there were a lot of positive takeaways. I think, Shawa impressed me for sure. He was like the best player out of the front three. And down the right, Faris Hamid, what a game, I mean, before the game, I actually personally believe that, he should be the first choice right wing back, which obviously my brother Donovan didn't quite agree with me. I hope he has actually proven him wrong, because that guy was like, he was like playing with a point to prove, you see. And, if Sundram is going to stick to this 3-4-3, right, I believe the wingers are very important. And, after watching last night's game, then I kind of like realized, I kind of like understand why Sundram actually called up so many right back and left backs. Because that position is just so important in this formation. So Faris is definitely going to start against Bahrain, in my opinion. And I mean, the left side is a bit shaky. Hafiz, he wasn't doing much, to be honest. He wasn't running, he wasn't tracking the runners, he wasn't doing a lot attacking wise. So I don't think he deserves to start the game on this Tuesday.
Okay, before we move into individual performances of players, let's take a look at the stats that happened yesterday. Okay, corners for Lebanon, 7. Singapore had 1 corner. Shots on target for Lebanon, 11. Singapore had 5 shots on target. Shots that went wide, 7 for Lebanon. That makes it 18 shots taken by Lebanon yesterday. Singapore had 2 shots wide, 5 shots on target. That makes it 7 shots. So you can see the big difference in the class. Fouls committed by Singapore was 16 fouls, 13 fouls committed by Lebanon. So Singapore were obviously the rougher side yesterday, and 2 offsides each. Surprisingly, possession for Singapore, 43%. Did it look like 43% to you guys yesterday?
43%. I'm not too sure whether, it looked like it, because in the second half we actually kind of like, we saw a lot of the ball. So I would say but to be honest, when I saw the whole game, I feel that Lebanon didn't really went all out. And on top of the fact that they were actually resting a few first team players. So they treat it more like a friendly lah. So I think I'm not too sure what was like Singapore approach to the game last night. It's probably to get used to the formation, because from the way I look at it, the pitch at the National Stadium is a bit longer and a bit more narrow as compared to Jalan Besar. So playing that kind of formation, right, I feel that there isn't support. During the first half when I watched the game, there were a lot of times where the 3 at the back, and obviously with Ishdin and Shadan, sitting in front of the defense, basically they were just these 5 of them, supporting one another. I thought like Faris and Hafiz probably need to cover more ground in that sense, to make the formation work, basically.
Well, just looking at the stats, I'm not surprised to see the stats, I'll be honest, because yes, we did have some very good glimpses of attacking, but then we never really managed to keep the ball. I felt we were giving it away a bit too easily, and that could explain why we don't really have the possession. And also, that would also explain why we had to commit so many fouls to actually go get the ball back. As for the shots on target, I think 5 versus 11 is a big difference, and if you start a game saying we're going to try and attack and we're going to try and create some shots, we need to try and see some shots. And something we saw, even in like very experienced attacking players like Safwan, they were a bit scared to just let go. There was a good chance in the box, I remember, where he just let he had an opportunity to go at the goal himself. Instead, he decided he's going to try and pass it into a very congested area in the pitch, which, it's decision making in the player, and at that time, under the pressure, yes, we can sit here and say, Safwan should have just shot, but at that time, in the pitch, on the pitch, in the middle of the game, then it's a totally different story. So. Yes, we can. Yes, we need to get more shots on goal, and that should come with confidence.
All right, let's move into the team and let's go department by department. Of course, yesterday Sundram opted to start for a 3-4-3 formation. I think it was pretty similar to what we played against Hong Kong and Turkmenistan. Now, for yesterday's game, the goalkeeper, as always, Hassan Sani. How do you feel he did yesterday? For me, he was one of the better players who really shone on the pitch and pulled off several saves. Now, the coach of Lebanon, Miodrag Radulovic, reserves special praise for Hassan Sani, and I think rightfully so, because Hassan did actually stop Lebanon on several occasions. Otherwise, the scoreline might have been much more. I feel 1-0 is a very flattering scoreline for Singapore. But let's hear your thoughts, gentlemen. What do you think, Eric?
I personally feel that whenever the national team play a soccer game, right, there should be like 2 men of the match, because the goalkeeper will definitely get it, because I think this is not like the first time Hassan has actually saved us. It's like he is a very important player of the team, and I'm actually not surprised by the performance, but just felt that there were a lot of times that he's probably like let down by the defense. Maybe he shouldn't be in a position where he need to actually make so many saves, but it's because of the defense and not being there, that he has to be called into action. But having said that, he's like the best goalkeeper that we have right now, and basically he's done a good job, and he will continue to be the number one, in the next few years, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, a special shout out to Hassan. Did you guys see that triple save, or was it a double save where he was lying on the floor but somehow still getting to the ball? That was epic. It was a pleasure to actually see that live from the ground. And I agree with Eric. I think given the past few matches, we should have 2 man of the matches, because the keeper is who, like, even Izwan would have probably gotten the man of the match, because the defense was a bit shaky at times, weren't communicating that very well with each other. So I agree with Eric. Hassan Sani is definitely on form and really making a name for himself, making a case that he should be abroad next season.
All right, let's look at the back three that Sundram employed. Madhu Mohana of Tampines Rovers, Haris Harun of Home United, and Daniel Bennett of Tampines Rovers. So we have 2 defenders coming from the second place team in the league, and the centre back, the one smack in the centre, Haris Harun, who has been deployed, I think, largely over the season as a centre back by Aidil Sharin, from the third place team. How did this back three work for Singapore? Were they effective enough, or perhaps someone else should have slotted in to where Haris was playing? I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I think I've said this quite a couple of times, that Haris should just move back into the centre midfield role. I think that is a very key area in the formation, you see. Ishdin and Shadan, it's a bit too lightweight. Don't get me wrong, they are good players, but if you're going to pair them together in front of the defense, they're not going to do much, you see. You need someone in there to basically add steel, add a bit of, to make it more compact and solid. So it was quite disappointing to see Haris starting at centre back. In my opinion, he should move into that sitting role in front of the defense. But apart from that, I think Bennett is as composed as fuck, to be honest. He is like the best defender we have, at the age of 39, and I think that in a way says a lot about our current talent pipeline. Apart from that, Madhu, I thought he has a pretty solid game. shout out to him as well. I think he has kind of like step up his game. And I thought I can't remember him like making a mistake last night. So it was good to see. So potentially, in the next few years, that position is basically his to, he needs to cement, he needs to basically, secure that spot in the first team. Then apart from that, when Irfan came on in the second half, he did well as well. Obviously playing alongside Daniel Bennett and Haris, because I think Madhu was moved to the right wing back role. So all in all, I think they did well. But I would like to see Haris move back into the center midfield.
Yep, I agree with Eric again. That Haris should be a person with his talents should be in centre mid, especially if your back four is a bit shaky. If your back four is a bit new to each other or something, then you need someone like Haris just in front of them, just bossing that area between the defense and the midfield, so that it provides a bit more security. So I feel Haris is wasted at centre back, to be honest. And speaking of Madhu, Madhu ended the match in a right wing position, and he was doing an amazing job out of it, like finding space, not doing, like as he said, not too many mistakes, putting the crosses in. So I think it's a testament to the player that, when you're a centre back and you're asked to go attack on right wing, you just go and do it. And I feel that's the correct attitude that you would want to have in a national player. What I would have liked to see is, I would love to see Irfan starting, because I felt Irfan is good enough now to actually make that place his starting place. And I know there's a big argument about where does he fit in the team. Is he an attacker? Is he a defender? For me, he's played in Home United and he's been a solid centre back for Home United. So he should have started the match as a centre back.
Okay, let's move up further the field into the midfield. And yesterday, the centre midfield for Singapore was actually Isdin Shafiq and Shadan Sulaiman. I think these two are considered as more creative players, not so much as enforcers. On the left side of midfield, we saw Hafiz Abu Sujad. And on the right side of midfield, we saw Faris Hamid, who plays for Geylang. Now, gentlemen, in a 3-4-3 system, do you think it's essential to have an enforcer in the centre of midfield? Or did you think that with two creative players, we did okay yesterday?
Well, I think we need an enforcer there. If you put, like I mentioned, you put Ishdin and Sharan together, I think the midfield is really light, very lightweight. We were actually run over by them a couple of times, during the first half. And I thought like when Anu came on, he kind of like make a difference as well. So I would say like, against Bahrain, we definitely will start Haris there, or even, just put Haris and Anu in there. That's my take on the center midfielder role. Because Ishdin wasn't doing much last night. I wasn't impressed at all. I'm not too sure. I have my reservations whether he deserved a first team spot against Bahrain. As for the right wing back, as in the right wing, I think Faris did really well. I think he was a good complement to Shawa, who was actually playing in front of him. So I would say that, he definitely deserved his starting spot on Tuesday. As for left, Hafiz was quite disappointing, in all honesty. So I would say that, for the game on Tuesday, I don't think he should be starting there. There were many times, it happened quite a couple of times in first half that, Daniel Bennett was basically left exposed on the left. And it was a bit too much for him to deal with, He wasn't running back as much as he should, because that role is really important. You need someone there who can really run up and run down, to cover for the defense. So I think I have someone in mind who can do a job better than Hafiz lah. Based on yesterday's performance, I would say Nazrul. Yeah.
Do you think part of the reason that Farid and Shawa complemented each other so well is because they've been together for quite a while, Geylang?
Yes, of course. You just like, you look at the defense, why Banner and Madhu, they are playing well together. Even Shadan, slightly in front of them. I think Shadam was having a decent, first 10 to 15 minutes. He was like spraying ball around. I think, when I look at the starting lineup yesterday, there were 4 players from Tampines, 4 from Home United. Then there's 2 from Geylang United and 1 from, obviously PDRM. So you can see that there's a chemistry there. Obviously Shawa and Faris, they understand each other's play. And, Shawa was really, outstanding yesterday. He played like a very seasoned international player. So I was quite shocked that, yesterday's game was only his third international cap. So yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's probably due to the Geylang United connection that they have done well down the right side, and that obviously should continue.
Yep. For me, I'd like to give a special shout out to Shawal. He played his heart out yesterday, and you could see him chasing down the balls, actually putting the tackles in, trying to get the ball and keep possession as much as he could. I believe he, as what Eric said, he looked like a player who's just been on the national team since he was 17 or something. He looked solid there. He didn't look too phased by the occasion. And let's not forget, he already has a goal, a national team goal to his name. And yeah, against Afghanistan, which was also the warm-up game against Bahrain when we played Bahrain in Bahrain. So maybe Shawal is a good. We should let Shawal start the next match. Is my opinion, and I think what Eric has a good point that the Geylang teammates gelling together, but then these guys have known each other for a very long time. They've trained for a very long time together. There's centralized training, if I'm not mistaken. So we can't excuse the other players for not gelling with these guys. So yes, Geylang helped. Being in the same team helped, but surely these guys should bond a little bit more together.
All right, before we move on to the strikers, comment coming in from Donovan. All right, I think this is probably posted to both of you. So I'm going to read it out and perhaps give me your thoughts about this. So Donovan feels that Farid did well when he was moved to the right wing position in the second half, where his defensive responsibilities were considerably lessened. Do you think he should play at a right wing back position, or should he play higher up like how he did in the second half? Of course, this would be at the expense of who was playing higher up yesterday was actually Shawal. So when Shawal came off, he was actually pushed further up. And to a certain point, we saw Madhu playing like I think, second striker, very high up the pitch. What do you guys think about this comment from Donovan?
I think it really depends on the game itself, like whether we are chasing the game or whether we are, just sitting back to defend the lead, or like chasing for equalizer or even winning goal. But I personally feel that, Faris, he did well for both halves. He showed that he can play a right wing back. He can also play like a right wing role. But my take is like, he should still be the right wing back. Yeah, so I believe Faris should still be the right wing back. Meaning to say like, he's playing on the right side of the ball in a midfield. Yeah.
Oh, that's a tough question, Donovan. Where should Faris play? He's primarily a defender. So we have to respect that, and we have to make sure that we are getting the best out of him as a defender. Yes, he can attack, but his attack shouldn't come at the expense of defense for me. So I see him really as a right wing back and nothing else. I don't think he can play centre back. I don't think it'll be a waste to play him at centre back. Maybe further up the field, there are better players in the current national team who could play those positions, and I think they should be allowed to do that.
Okay, let's move on to the attacking trident yesterday. Now, actually, in the last podcast, our guests did put together a team of hodgepodge players, and it just so happened that the 3 players our guests selected actually appeared as the striking force that was deployed by Sudrum yesterday. Unfortunately, the trident was deployed invertedly, whereby Safwan was the main centre forward, and to his left was Shawa Anwar, to his right was Faris Ramli. What do you guys think about this attacking trident? Now, are there any players in there whom you feel, and I know today it's like trending, it's going crazy, everyone is saying like Safwan Baharudin shouldn't be playing as a centre forward, but what do you guys think? He did okay yesterday?
It was very disappointing, but it was more or less like expected, right? If you look at the national team right now, out of 25 players, we only have like 2 proper strikers, which is like Khairul Amri and Shan. And, but I mean, to be fair to Sundram, there isn't like a really a proper striker that is scoring a lot of goals. Khairul has been affected by, he has his fair bit of injuries. He's playing Shafwan up there, I think the only reason the only reason he's playing there, is because he can basically hit the ball. He's like a focal point, he can hold the ball. Apart from that, I don't see any other reason why he's actually starting him as a striker. But in my opinion, he should actually move back. If you ask me like a few months ago, I think Shafwan should stick to centre back. But I think at his age right now, he's like 26, and I think it is a bit too late. So if you ask me right now, I think I see him more as like a centre mid, someone who is probably like a box-to-box, more attacking, whereas Faris and Anu play right behind of him. So it's like a triangle at the center of the pitch. I think that will make more sense to me, because I mean Shafwan has proven that he can score goals. So he has that attacking instinct, but he's not a number 9. Definitely not a number 9. He's like I would say the max that I will go is like, he's probably like a number 10, maybe somewhat of like a second striker, but definitely not a striker. As for Faris and Shawa, I think they are like the most on-form players in the S.League for a while now. So the two obviously deserve the starting place. Faris was a bit disappointing. I mean, he obviously went out early. I think he had like a minor injury, a pull or something. So, and Shawa did like 50 over 60 minutes. So I believe Sundram is like trying to keep them fresh for the Bahrain game. They should continue to start for sure.
All right, before I hand over the mic to Dil, I'm just going to share with you guys something that I overheard in the stands, and I would like Dil to address this. So what I heard in the stands was, Sundram start Safwan again. That means he's going to play long ball. What do you think, Dil?
Ooh. Well, I think if Sundram dropped Safwan, a lot of people would have been up in arms. But I don't disagree with playing Safwan up front, and I will tell you why. Because for the last year or so, at his Malaysian club, he has been playing an attacking mid position, and he's been knocking the goals in. Yes, it is a second division club. Let's not go there right now, but he is playing that position for his club. And what I would like to know is that a thing that he asked for, or is that a move that the club forced on him and the national team forced on him? And you guys mentioned that in the last podcast, right? You all actually predicted the top 3, the leading 3 who are going to lead our attack, and there was one key difference in that, was that Safwan was slightly behind the 2 main strikers. He was, in your formation, he was supposed to be a guy who would hold the ball and spread it, right? And what happened was, he was the player who was furthest up the field, and unfortunately, whoever was that in the crowd, he was kind of right at some points. When we were running out of ideas, we were just punting it up and just hoping Safwan will catch it. Which isn't too bad if we had a Duric up there, a guy who is a out-and-out striker who knows to be up there, who knows to go get the ball and go and score. But what we saw was Safwan was a bit hesitant to shoot, because maybe that's not his first instinct that he gets, right? Because of his training. His first instinct is to make the goal. So maybe, yes, Safwan should be up there. He's valuable in the attack. But he should not be the striker. He should be slightly behind the strikers, dictating the attacking play. So a deep lying midfielder, and then Safwan right in front of him, maybe.
Okay, comment coming in from Javier Pay of Ultra Eagles, Geylang International fans. So Javier says, considering we have natural strikers, I would have preferred those natural strikers to start ahead of Safwan. Safwan could be a useful player when needed, but not preferred to start as a striker. Now, Eric, you mentioned there are only 2 real strikers in the team, Iksan Fandi and Khairul Amri. So, if we were to start with a real striker out of the 2, or maybe you have some other candidate who's versatile enough to play as a centre forward, who would you pick?
Okay, this is a tough one. I've actually thought about it since last night. To be honest, I mean, Kairu has his, he's obviously not on his top form right now. His son, obviously, he's still a bit too young for the big international games. So if you give me a choice, right, I would go with Shawa at the top. Yeah, and I will actually explain why later, because we will be doing like how we will set the team out against Bahrain. I will put Shawa on the top for sure. That's a no-brainer for me. No more Shafwan at the top. I will go with Shawa. That guy is a finisher. He can run the channels. He can actually attack the space. And, he has that, attacking instinct. Even when I saw Geylang International game this season, there were many times during the game that actually Koto kind of dropped. He basically dropped back, and Shawa was like, moving into that center forward role. So, if you ask me, he could potentially do a job there, if given the opportunity, but, obviously it's quite unlikely.
All right, Dale, here's something for you. Javier Pay. How about Sharil Ishak? He's old. He's not that old, come on. He's old, but he's been scoring in the league. Yep, 11 goals. He has matched the same number of goals as Faris Ramli, and these are the only two local guys who have been scoring regularly for their clubs. Would Sharil Ishak be a good choice as a centre forward?
Hi, Javier. Yes, he is, but honestly, yes. If you are talking about a striker who can go and score goals, and one who is not intimidated by a national stage, it is Sharil Ishak. But yes, what we heard is that he had to attend to some family issues or something, and then he was given leave. So, players' welfare comes first, especially in a friendly like this. So we have to respect his decision there. And we're talking about out-and-out strikers. We don't have many local out-and-out strikers. Let's be honest. That's a big problem. Any coach, not Sundram, I'm just talking about any coach who comes to coach Singapore. Like, who do you have? Khairul Amri, Fazrul Nawaz. They're both the same age, about 30-something, I think, by now. Who are the younger ones who are coming through? Iksan Fandi. Is Ifat considered an out-and-out striker? I don't think so, right? So Iksan's not exactly scoring the goals in and blazing the league right now. So, yeah, any coach who goes into looking for out-and-out strikers is going to struggle in the league. So, what we talked about earlier, maybe the best solution is not to have a point man, is to have that front trident who can actually run off the ball and beat people with pace rather than just be a point man up front. And JB, I know you would love to see Shawal up there, but, Shawal needs help up there.
All right, so this afternoon I actually conducted a mini survey on my own Facebook, my personal Facebook. So I started asking my friends, Safwan Barudin, what position should he play? So I listed 4 positions: centre back, holding midfielder, attacking midfielder, and centre forward. Response has been overwhelming. Everyone, or almost, I think 95% of the response was that Safwan is a centre back. Let's not play him anywhere else. And the people who validated this info, I have big names such as former Singapore captain Razali Saad, who said centre back, no question about it. He shouldn't be playing anywhere else. And also, my good friend who is now coaching Eunos Crescent, Khairul Ashraf, he was also saying that, if he was the national coach, no question about it, Safwan is supposed to play in the centre-back position. Now, with such an overwhelming response about Safwan having to play in the centre-back position, and as you two rightfully mentioned, there are not many out-and-out strikers, here's an interesting proposition. How about Iqbal Hussein? Is he good enough as centre-forward for Singapore?
I like Iqbal as a player. I believe he's talented. He's probably like one of the best dribbler in the league. But I don't think he is, he's ready for the international stage yet. Because there were times when I watched him play, he can do all the tricks, all the fanciful stuff, you see, but the end product is not there. I would actually prefer someone who is actually more direct, player like Faris Hamid, who basically just bring the ball to the byline and put a cross in, that type of players. So potentially yes, but I think at the moment, he hasn't done enough to convince me.
Well, if the Hools are listening in, I bet they're going mad right now, right? Iqbal Hussein in the national team, be a dream come true for them. But I'm sorry to say this, Hools, but he's not there yet for me. He is an extremely promising character, and he has that swagger you expect from a footballer, and the confidence that goes with a footballer. But he came in halfway through the season to Hougang United because he was serving his NS duties. Yep, and then it's basically he hasn't had enough time to express himself in the league. He hasn't really scored a lot of goals in the league, so not right now. In the future, for sure.
All right, before we move on to our tactics for Bahrain, let's take a look at the 5 substitutes. Oh, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 substitutes that came on for Singapore yesterday. Please tell me who you were impressed with and who you felt was totally played out of position. Iksan Fandi came on for Hafiz Sujat in the 89th minute. Arno Mantan came on for Izdin Shafiq, 56th minute. Zulfami Arifin came on for Shadan, 66th minute. Irfan Fandi came on for Faris Ramli, 45th minute. And Khairul Amri came on for Safwan Barudin in the 71st minute. Now, out of the 6 substitutes, which were the ones that impressed you the most?
I think it was Nazrul. When he came on, he actually made a difference. And it was quite surprising because he was actually playing down the left instead of his usual right. So it shows that his speed really created a lot of problem for the Lebanon team. Apart from that, I would say Anu made a bit of a difference as well. He came in and it was more compact. You could see that they were in better control of the midfield area. As for Irfan, obviously he came on, for Faris, play alongside, 2 very experienced players. So naturally, I think there's the confidence there to do well. So I mean, all in all, these 3 players make a difference for me. Son, obviously he came on with with 3-4 minutes to go. So I can't really comment much on that. Yeah, I mean, Khairul Amri, you can see that he's a bit still not at his full 100%. So, I do have my doubts whether he should be starting the Bahrain game.
Well, I agree with him. Nazrul was phenomenal. We came in and he made a big difference, which is a bit surprising because I don't think he's been doing that well in the league, has he? But, when the moment came, he stepped up, he proved himself, and I knew he didn't look like a player who hadn't played much football in 6 months. He was right in the mix. They were both impressive, but I think Nazrul is the one who should be in the starting lineup based on his performance. Anu is a very, very, very good backup for Haris in midfield for me.
All right, I think there's plenty of people who agree with our 2 guests. Muhammad Salihuddin says Nazrul Nazari. Javier says he's impressed with Nazrul on the left. Keng Hui says Irfan and Anumantan did well. Okay, here's an interesting comment from Izwan Abu Shama, who's from the Jaguar Force. I believe the national team should have a game with an alternate 11 players whose supporters wanted to be in the national team and coached by a top S.League coach, and see if jewels can be found in the national team or unearthed for the national team. Interesting. Do you think this would work for us?
Is he suggesting a hashtag United for Singapore? Hashtag Lions? That would be interesting. Well, whether we should, it would be a fun off-season thing to do. Let's see if someone can put that together, yeah?
Well, I mean, it sounds like something different, of course, but I'm not too sure whether you're going to, assess the players just based on that one game alone. I think, for you to be called up for the national team, you have to do it on, a week in, week out basis. And yeah, I mean, it really depends. I mean, it can be a one-off, like a testimonial game that, we could potentially look at the players that have missed out on selection, but I don't think we base our selection based on that, that one game alone. I don't think that made a lot of sense, yeah.
All right, let's look forward to the next game against Bahrain, which is happening on next Tuesday. Now, you've seen how Singapore played against Lebanon. Now, Bahrain is ranked at 125, so they are like 24 spaces below Lebanon. And you've seen how we've played the tactics that Sundram has tried to employ. Surprisingly, though, against Lebanon, we did not try the famous Madu long throw. Now, the Lebanon number 5 came up. He did try to do a couple of long throws, but I feel that they were too feeble. Madu could do much better, but we did not try that, and I was a bit surprised. Well, so how do you think we will line up against Bahrain in the coming Tuesday? Would we be playing the same batch of players? I mean, you look at players like Faris and Shadam who were taken off early. I understand that Faris was taken off early. It was a purely tactical decision. I think probably just to keep his legs fresh for the next encounter on Tuesday. Now, if you were Sundram and you were given free rein, what would you change after what you've seen in the players who've played in the game against Lebanon? We're going to go with Eric first.
To be honest, right, I mean, the 3-4-3 formation, is something different, definitely. I think it gives us more options when we are attacking. But I'm still not convinced whether we have the players on the flank who can do well in this formation. Because when I was actually watching the first half, I think the gap and the space between the defense and the midfield is way too big, you see. The defense is basically not getting enough protection from the midfielders. One good example is Daniel Bennett, and that was why we actually considered a goal. Because Ishdin and Hafiz, basically, they were just like totally switched off. And Bennett, obviously, he went to try to, intercept and, obviously got caught out of position. So I think that kind of like, the left side of the defense, actually, we were pretty much exposed. Really not too sure whether we should still stick to this 3-4-3, but, obviously we have used that for the last 2 or 3 games. So if we are going to, stay with this formation for the Bahrain game, I will make a few changes to it. Hassan Sani will still be my goalkeeper. For sure, that's like a no-brainer. So the 3 will be, I will go with Madu on the right, as in, the 3 centre-back. So Madu will be playing on the right centre-back role. So the centre-back role will be Irfan Fandi, and the left side will still be Daniel Bennett. So as for the midfield, I will change a little bit. I mean, the centre, right, it will basically be like a triangle. So the 2 sitting midfielder will be Haris and Anu. And the ones playing, slightly in a more advanced role will be Shafwan Barudin. The one on the right, I will still go with Faris Hamid. After the game yesterday, I mean, I think he's more like an automatic, he's basically like an automatic starter right now for the next game. The left, I will, let me see, this is quite a tricky one. Okay, I honestly will go with Nazru because he has the speed, he has the stamina to basically, to take care of the flank, which was something lacking on, from what I see from Hafiz last night. So that's like a 3-5. Okay, so I'm left with like 2 more players. I will go with Faris, who will be like a number 10, and then Shawa on top. So how this is going to work, right? When we are attacking, okay, the 3 will still remain at the back, all right? So it will become like a, let me see, 3, 7, 8. So it will become like a, okay, 3 at the back will remain. Then it will become like a 3-2, basically like a 3-2-4-1. Yeah, so when we are attacking, it will be like a 3-2-4-1. And the 4 players will be Faris on the right, left will be Nazru. Shafwan will go up, to be like a, I don't know, a second striker alongside Faris Ramli. And then Shawa will be right on top. Yeah, that's how I will line up my team. And if we are, obviously defending, right? I will expect Faris and Nazru to drop back. So it will become like a 5 at the back. Anu and Haris will still sit in front of the defense. And then I will expect Faris. I will expect basically Faris and Shawa to drop back. So basically Shafwan will, I don't know, I mean, they can just basically take one flank each. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Hey, Sundram, be careful. Eric's coming for your job, man. All right. So for me, I don't think we should change the 3-4-3 for a very simple reason. We don't have enough time for it. It is we have been used to this formation. We are getting the players used to the formation. So I think we should stick to the 3-4-3. Pretty much the same roles, but I would change some personnel on the pitch and their duties. So first thing I would do is put Haris up to center mid, a defensive mid position where he could boss that space right in front of the defensive three. And what I would do is bring in Irfan into that position, and I would play Bennett right down the middle. He is very good at reading play, so he should probably stay back and try and read the play and stop it, while people like Irfan and Madhu, who have the pace to track back, could probably play the left and the right of the three defenders. And as for midfield, I said let's put Haris there, and I feel we should take Isdin out. Isdin and Shadan for me are two similar players, not exactly the same, but similar in the strengths they bring to the national team. So I feel we should have one solid defender, which is going to solid defensive midfielder, who is going to be Haris, and Shadan, who is he has some natural flair. He still has that attacking instinct in him to try and spray the passes. And then the left wing back position, I would put Nazrul Nazari there. Hafiz had a pretty bad game. He was a bit outplayed, and Nazrul came in and showed that it necessarily didn't have to be. So I would put Nazrul there. And as Eric and you said, Farid's pretty much cemented that right wing back position. He was solid there. I don't think he can be moved. The next thing I would do is have Safwan drop back a little bit, play not right up front, but play in an attacking mid position where he could receive the ball, say from the midfield or from the wings, and hold the ball long enough so that he can spray and release the two strikers who I would love to be, who I would recommend is Faris Ramli and Shawal Anwar. They should stick to that. They should stick to the Bahrainian defense right at them, and then try and beat them with the pace by beating the offside trap and try and get into the positions. And if those positions are not available, there's always a good opportunity for Safwan to spray a pass onto the wings, and the wing backs could always push up and try and get that. And of course, eventually when Bahrain's going to attack us, we can have both Nazrul and Farid, who are both very good defenders, drop back and become more or less a five-man defense. And it's going to be tough to break down, and they are very energetic players who should be able to keep up with the up and down the flanks. And if they get tired, we always have Hafiz who can come in. Madhu can play that position. So we do have the substitution options available as well. So the main difference in the attack I would do is make sure that Shawal and Faris are hugging the defense, ready to run into space, and Safwan just behind them, able to receive and spread the ball out. So that's the way I would form my team.
Okay, a couple of comments before we move on to the final topic of the day. Some suggestions from our listeners for out-and-out strikers. Keng Hui Yu, Sahil Suhaimi, who's playing for Sarawak. And also Javier Pei, who's recommending Ifwat Ismail because he can score hat-trick. Just like Marian Soto, today I'm very happy I scored hat-trick. Okay, what do you guys think about Ifwat Ismail and Sahil Suhaimi?
Sahil, I'm not too sure how he did at Sarawak, but I don't think he's like an out-to-out striker. He's more like like a second striker, or he can play in like a winger role, because he's quick. He's too small to be an out-to-out, to be honest. Even if you think he's like an out-to-out striker, do you think Sunjan will use him as a number 9? I don't think so. That's because of his size. No offense, but I think that is a fact. So I like Ifwat. I think he's like the next up-and-coming, striker. Not too sure how he will do in the next few years, but I think it will be really important. I obviously hope he will be playing week in, week out next season in the S.League. I've seen him play, a few times. He looks like he's really comfortable, very composed in front of the goal, and he's basically like a finisher. So there are a lot of potential players that are like up and coming. If you look at Itsan, you have Ifwat. And then, and obviously the prime league striker for Hougang, and we still have like Iqbal, so. But it's really about doing it on a week in week out basis, like being consistent and scoring the goals to make it count. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's my thoughts on Sahil and Ifwat.
Well, Ifat, I feel Ifat is still very young. He is coming through. He should be given the space to develop. We shouldn't rush people into a national team just because he was scoring a few goals. We have to make sure that he's ready for that step up, because what we don't want is to push a young player up there, then have a terrible few matches and then get discouraged. We need to think of the psychological effect on players as well. As for Sahil Suhaimi, I'm sorry, he has nothing to offer which Faris or Shawal can do better. They're both small-sized strikers who can run off the ball, who have the pace. So I really don't think, given the current circumstances, Sahil Suhaimi should be in the national team.
And also just to add on to what we have discussed earlier, right? I mean, for Shuffle One to be playing on top, I feel that we are not making full use of his abilities as a footballer. He can actually do a lot more in a different role. You put him as striker, you actually limit his involvement during the games, especially when we tend to sit back and hit teams, I mean, we are playing more attacking right now, I think, I mean, I give credit when due, I mean, Sunjam is trying to change this, but, Shafuan should be playing in a more withdrawn role, if you ask me. I think it's a bit of a waste of his talent if you play him as a number 9, yeah.
Okay, so both our guests have given their thoughts about their teams. We're going to be posting up images of the teams that were picked by both Eric and Dil. So moving on to our final topic of the day. Now, another trending topic today is #Sundram out. Now, this is highly controversial. Of course, we at the podcast, we are pretty neutral. I personally think Sundram, well, from the start that when he took over up until now, I feel that the last few games we have indeed been improving, although it's just like bit by bit. I feel that we should give him more time. But of course, my guests might have different views on this. Now, let's say in a hypothetical situation, let's say if Sundram was really removed from his position and we have to hire a new coach to take over the team as it is right now, which coach, in your opinion, would give us would bring us to greater heights than what Sundram already has achieved with the team? So I'm going to start with Eric first and then followed by Dil.
Well, this is a no-brainer. I mean, if you give me a choice, if Sundram if Sundram leave his job today, I will pick Philip Au. I'm sorry, sorry to the Who's, but I think he is, I mean, Philip Au, he has his own philosophy, and obviously he's a manager that believes in giving the young players a chance. Look at how many players have come through the Hougang system. I mean, obviously they have underperformed this season, but long-term wise, if you believe in his philosophy, I think he comes across as a manager that he's not afraid to drop the big names in favor of the young players, and I think that says a lot about him as a manager. I personally feel that he should be. I mean, he's definitely one of the top contender for me. If obviously if the role becomes vacant one day.
Can someone convince Richard Bock to come out of retirement? But if he can't do that, I completely agree with Eric. The next coach for me would be Philip Au, but it's not time to sack Sundram yet because we have bigger issues to fix. Just changing coach will not fix anything right now. So we need time to fix issues, and then when the time is right, when the infrastructure is there, if we have someone like Philip who can optimize the resources he has, we want someone like Philip in there.
Okay, here's a thought. Well, looking at the top 4 teams in the S.League, of course, okay, let's take away Yoshinaga because he's in charge of Albirex. But how about the managers that are currently managing Tampines, Home United, and Geylang International? What do you guys feel if we appointed any of the 3? I'm talking about Jurgen Rapp, Aidil Sharin, Mohammad Noor Ali. Would you consider these 3 coaches to come into the national team setup?
I think this might sound a bit weird or controversial, coming from a Tampines Rovers fan, but I personally quite like Noor Ali. I mean, I believe we have enough. We have really solid, good local coaches, so we shouldn't be, trying to, give the hot seat to a foreigner. So Jurgen Rupp for me is out. He should stay on at Tampines since he's doing well. I think Noali for me is good. After he took over from obviously Hashrin, he has stabilized the ship. He seems like a manager. He's probably like another Filipao. I mean, he gives me the impression that he's willing to give the young players a chance. And I mean, towards the end of for the last few games for Geylang International, you can see that the players are actually playing for the manager. I think the body language says a lot. Potentially yes. I mean, he's another. He's still like not more than a year under his belt. So the next few years will be important, but never rule that out. I think he's a good coach. So I think Geylang International will be a force next season again. I'm sure they can do well if they can keep the spine of the team together.
All right, very fast. Jurgen Rupp, yes, really good coach to bring in when you are in a crisis. He can gel your team together and do a very good job. National team coach material, because he needs time to work with his people. That's what he does best. He manages people very well. So let's not put him right there. But Noor Ali is still new into his first big management position, right? If I'm not mistaken. So maybe not right now. Again, and who was the third one again? Ideal, is it? Ideal, sorry.
You have something to say? Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, man, I totally missed Ideal out. But if you ask me, I will still take Noali over Ideal. Because to quote Noali, not quote anyone, coaching Stipe and Faris is actually really easy. So I rate Noali higher than, as compared to Ideal. Yeah.
Few interesting names being thrown in by people in the comments. Javier Pay is saying Alex Weaver. Who else? Let me see. We have Coach Bala coming from Salehuddin. Coach Bala is currently in charge of the women's team actually, and he's doing a pretty decent job, I would say. But to switch from a women's team to a men's team, well, maybe it could work, I don't know. Okay, so I think that's about all the time we have today. Of course, after this podcast, we're going to post up images of the lineups chosen by our two guests. And the next podcast is going to come after the next game against Bahrain, which is our final international fixture for this season. Hopefully, the boys end the season with at least one win under our belt. Then it wouldn't make our record look so bad. But nonetheless, after that game, we're going to do another podcast before the S.League season resumes with the final round of games for this season. So, final round of games coming up. Actually, to me personally, there's only one fixture or a couple of fixtures which I'm interested in. I want to see who finishes 4th and 5th. Which right now, 4th is occupied by Geylang International, 5th is occupied by Warriors. The final round of games would determine who's going to finish above each other. I think right now Geylang is in the forefront for finishing 4th. For Warriors to come up, sorry Dale, it's a bit difficult. Unless you guys can really win by a very big scoreline and Geylang loses, that's the only way Warriors can climb up. Yeah. But okay, I think that's all the time we have today. This podcast is still going to be up on the page. So if you have any comments, after the show has ended, just continue commenting. And after the game against Bahrain, we're going to talk about your thoughts and your comments again. And well, let's see what happens. Hopefully we get a win. All right, gents, thank you so much and good evening, or rather good night.